We're talking cars and automotive stuff for the next little while. Looking forward to talking about VWs in this podcast, Tiguan's and more. I actually like the T-Roc. I've never driven one. I just like the name. It's like, what do you own? T-Roc. What's your name? T-Roc.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's the IROC in America, right?
Well, yeah, but that's a Camaro.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not for me either. But
well, I drive an IROC. Yeah, there's no question.
I mean, people in Britain only know of an IROC from the Wheatus song "Teenage Dirtbag."
Oh, there we go.
He drives an IROC.
Yeah, there we go. Well, we're going to dive right into it. We're coming to you from the podcast studio here at the Rove Hotel, downtown Dubai. It is POWERWORKS time. So the reason this is coming up is a couple weeks ago, we were sitting down, we were getting ready to do the podcast thing, and you were sending me videos. You had the Thing, you had multiple Tiguans, you had other things.
Tuaregs. Oh.
Tuaregs, okay, sorry, Tuaregs. You had multiple Tuaregs in the shop, and you said it's become a home of VWs, which is not a bad thing because you love VWs, and that's where you cut your teeth. And the team is really loves to be working on those machines. And I thought, well, let's do that show. Let's talk about these and where things are going and what you're noticing, and sort of walk our way around the shop as well. But I think it'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't push POWERWORKS as a specialist. There's many reasons for that.
Which is a hard one, isn't it? Because, I mean, not a hard one. Obviously, you guys work on everything. You work on the Wranglers. You work on any vehicle. Yeah. But I do see, when you drive around and you look at garages, you'll see the generalists. So we work on everything. And then you'll see a few people who said, okay, we'll do everything, but we really love Mercedes. Or we really love to work on Skoda. Or we really, really love to work on MGs. I actually haven't seen that.
Met anybody that says that. I mean, there's a couple of 70-year-old guys in some backwoods place in England that would probably say that, but there's nobody else. No one else.
I saw a new one the other day, brand new, fresh out of the wrapper, and I had to take a second look because I wasn't sure if it was a Volkswagen.
The MG.
Something.
Yeah. I don't know.
Who knows? But what all I think about is the stories, and if you go back into the podcast, there were a number of episodes where we were talking about Colin, MG, electrics, and you were working on that.
Stupid car.
Yeah, that
absolutely ridiculous.
That was the summary right there. And
yeah, you know what? One of the things is that I don't think. Look, I'm not professing to be any kind of expert here in economics, but I don't think the margins are there on these Chinese vehicles for the dealerships here to provide the exact same level of service that you would expect that you can then get from an own builder that does VW.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that people that buy an MG necessarily expect the same quality as they would if they were to buy a VW. They understand that the same size car is costing them 50% of the price, but you still expect the same level of customer service, I think. Now, with the MG, it's a good example. They disappeared for effectively the best part of 15 years.
Yeah, they were gone.
And then came back. So then you've got a whole generation of new drivers that don't really know what an MG is. Now, you'd say MG to anybody, certainly British, but anyone that's had any kind of interest in motor vehicle history that's 50 plus in vintage,
for sure.
Anyone British will just roll their eyes and talk and say what a disaster. And
they will say that is not an MG you're looking at on the road.
And they'll say, they'll tell you about the glory days of it.
Yeah.
But were they really that good?
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't have much of the same. They didn't have any other. They had no harder, from what I understand of it, nothing was harder for them than it was for Land Rover, than it was for Jaguar.
Right.
They're still around.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, you pivot, you make some missteps along the way,
Yeah.
you figure out how to make it more economical, how to get it to be more reliable,
Yeah.
how to get a better parts distribution system going. You need a whole group of dealers. You need a whole group of agencies who are going to make it work.
I think if anybody boiled it down and went into it properly, and maybe, you know, I'd be up for that. I might do that, and we'll do an MG show, or we'll do a British motor industry show, because that's like,
Yeah.
all of it will come down to an individual.
Yeah. There we go. Exactly.
All of the positive will come down to an individual decision. Then there'll be a collaborative effort to get it to a certain point, and then all of the negative will ultimately be down to one guy.
Right.
And invariably, in the British motor trade at that time, it was a man
Yeah.
that screwed everybody.
Yeah.
Because they misappropriated funds, or they just had absolutely no idea what they were doing in the position that they held. And there was a lot of glad handing and a lot of, you know, brown envelopes being passed around and golden handshakes for people, and it's no way to run a business.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why there's probably more Nissans put together in the UK than any other car. You know?
Yeah, it's
What's that
incredible,
all
actually.
about? And we're going to talk about VW. Depending on what you believe and read, I mean, the history is kind of undeniable, but Volkswagen could have died a death with the reparations from the war,
Yeah.
from the Potsdam Agreement. The British Army officer that decided to, instead of demolishing the factory and selling the stuff, all the equipment, he put British Racing Green on Type 1 on a Beetle,
Yeah.
which we now know as a Beetle. I think they used to call them KDF or something.
Yeah, some crazy thing.
So they painted it green and showed it to the military in the UK, and they're like, yeah, we're up for a bit of that. And then they got all the rest of them and got the factory back going again.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden, you've got probably the most iconic car ever. You know, there's the Mini Cooper and there's the Citroen 2CV and the Fiat 500, but it's the Beetle.
Yeah.
Everything that came from the Beetle. I mean, what would hippies have done if there's no Beetle
Exactly.
or camper van?
There
And
we
it all
go.
came from the same thing, right? And say what you want about hippies, but what a movement. And everybody knows, if you say hippie, everybody knows straight away.
Yeah.
You know, straight away. Just like with a scooter, with a mod. You know, it's just one of those cultural icons, which, again, it kind of comes down to an individual. An individual made a decision to do something with it. Now, for whatever reason, he thought that. He obviously wasn't thinking, we'll keep this alive, and in 70 years it'll be the biggest producing car manufacturer in the world. That's obviously not what was in his head. But at the same time, that's a single person making a single decision, which has changed history. There'd have been no Golf GTI. And if there'd have been no Golf GTI, there'd have probably been no hot hatches. You think about all the great cars you get as a hot hatch. There'd have been no Passat. There'd have been no Bugatti Veyron.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, all these things are crazy to think. And VW you take Wolfsburg, the big plant in Wolfsburg, there was nothing there. That's the reason the plant was put there. Now there's 120,000 people employed. They've got a football team that enters the top flight competition in Europe every single year, just from a car factory.
Can you imagine?
That doesn't happen. You know, you've got Toyota in Japan, but wow.
Yeah. Exactly.
It
Wow.
was going to be demolished. It should have been demolished. And then somebody had the foresight to think, well, we could use this for the army and put them back to work. And it makes sense if they've got to pay money to all these countries, Hungary, Poland, all these places that they've affected with the war, then they might as well be earning some kind of money. And here we are today, and my shop's full of them. And I'm loving it.
You had some wonderful cars, as I said, that you were firing around. It's all started with the first vehicle that was in the line was a thing.
Yeah, well, I sent you that because I know you had the Golf convertible.
Right. Yeah, cabriolet.
Something about a Volkswagen convertible.
There is something, there is, and I don't know what it is. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's the way that roof comes down, and we had the cabriolet, the GTI cabriolet, and it spanked of the Beetle. So
Yeah.
just the way the roof worked, This was manual. I mean, this was manual days. A couple of clips on the side to hook it in place. That was it. And it was just fun. It was just, I think that's the one word to sum it up, fun.
Yeah, I knew you'd, like I say, I knew you'd had that and I knew you'd appreciate it. But yeah, we had the thing which...
I'd have one of those in a drop of a hat too.
The roof is completely off of it at the minute.
So someone said, hey, I got a thing for sale. Okay, I'm really interested.
Yeah.
Like I'm really, really interested. So I'm always got my eye on it.
Yeah, this is actually, it's kind of like a half-completed project which got to the point of being able to register and use.
Okay.
Which is now just too fun to use, so it never gets finished. So we've had it in to fix the handbrake, and we're doing some welding on the floor pan, which is nothing to do with the build quality, by the way. A battery exploded, and the battery's under the back seat.
Oh, no.
And then the acid just corroded through the floor. So it happens on them, actually. I've seen that a few times. But yeah, so then we had the last model, which is going to be the last model, and I suppose, unless they do an electric one, which is ridiculous if they don't. But the Beetle ragtop convertible, and I don't.
So what's the story of that? What are you hearing? I mean, they're done.
They're
really.
done with it.
Yeah. I don't know how that's possible. Like that's a signature vehicle.
Yeah.
I think the redesign didn't. I mean, it's nice and it.
Well, I remember the launch of the last one, and they launched it in Spain the same time as they launched the, pretty sure it was the Cayman. And Cayman, I mean, what a car, you know.
Yeah.
Drives better than a 911. Didn't say that, but it does. Fantastic car, you know. But the Beetle gets wheeled out at the end, and it was like the main event without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
And it's because of the fact that, you know, the new Beetle, as they called it in '98 when that came out, it was too round and bubbly and happy, but at the time, it fit. There was a lot of cars like that.
Yeah.
We had the Smart car in the UK, which was just like a bubble on wheels, and then, you know, there was lots of little round, bubbly cars, and it just fit the time. But it was just, yeah. You know, after a while, it was.
Well, they squished it down a little bit. They lowered the roof a little bit, so then it had that. You know,
it went back to sharing a profile with the Porsche again, sort of. It kept the classic shape, but it was a lot better looking.
And they juiced it up a little bit more under the hood too.
Yeah, pretty much just because of the times most engines were turbocharged, and you know the tech got better.
Yeah. I thought the last version was really fun.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I liked the one before. We had a demo, a blue demo with the convert. It was that was a convertible, and me and DJ, you know, we'd borrow that at weekends from the sales team quite often, especially when the weather was nice.
Sure.
And it wasn't exactly known for being the most masculine of vehicles, shall we say, but it's just something. I mean, it was a Golf, so it drove and handled and went really well. It was a 2-litre diesel, that one.
Yeah, okay.
So it was great, plenty of power, and the roof came down on it. You know, so early 20s, DJ probably mid 20s, just thrashing around in a Beetle with the roof down. Who cares? We were loving it. It was really cool, and you know, I did like that car, but the new one was so much better at everything.
Yeah.
and I can't understand. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll see that there's 100 classic Beetles getting converted to EVs every year, which there must be.
There's got to be.
There must be, and they'll think, well, we're missing out on this. Why reinvent the wheel? Who's not going to buy an electric Beetle? Make it look like the old one. Who cares?
That's it. I'm constantly saying this, and I say it to the folks who, Honda. Honda's got some great ads out right now, and some interesting looking Hondas coming out.
Yeah.
But the original Honda Civics were these tiny, little. They were a Mini. The size of an original Mini, those smaller tires on them. Why don't they brought those back out as rompers around the city? Maybe it's safety. I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose you struggle to where you put your airbags and
but
you know.
Well, look what they did with the BMWs that are now the Minis. You know, the Mini BMW. They made it work. They're a little bit bigger, but you know, and there's that whole nostalgia thing in there. So I'm thinking when you start taking it right back to the old look, Volkswagen does this again with the Beetle.
Yeah.
You know, Honda just do it with the Civic. Have a version like that. People will buy them.
Yeah.
And if
100%.
you can EV convert it, even better. Like then suddenly it becomes that little romper around the town or thing, and you know, people are driving it. It's like, oh.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think as anyone that's listened to more than one of these shows for more than 5 minutes knows, I don't like EVs as the solution. I think it's hydrogen fuel cell. Obviously, the problem you've got there is at the moment, the people that are losing out on petrol sales that control crude oil at least can at least make money from power stations charging EVs. So that's the way it's going. Of course, there's lobbyists and there's political power with these people that run oil companies. Right. So while they can power stations on oil, okay, we'll sell less petrol at the pumps, but at least we're selling more to the power stations to run the EVs, and we're selling more to the construction industry to put the cable in, etc. I just don't think it's sustainable from the raw material side of the batteries, and I do think it's a bad idea to go all in on it, but it's a necessary change. I just think hydrogen is the way to go.
Yeah. And
for me, you've got a simple decision where, well, is it worth designing all these brand new platform EVs? Is it worth doing that when, you know, we could convert an old Beetle?
I mean, I would.
Who's not going to buy it?
Exactly.
And for me to go and do it, look, it can be done, and there are countless examples, and a lot of people document their things through vlogs and blogs and everything else. And I'm sure on YouTube you'd be able to find somebody that's done it, or at least owned one and done an ownership review or something like that. But it's way, way, way more expensive for me to do it, and I'm doing it with second-hand, invariably Tesla bits.
Yeah.
So the battery's already a lot less efficient than it could be, and manufacturers could do that at a fraction of the cost I could.
Yeah.
Sell it to me at a profit, and everybody wants
exactly.
an old Beetle, surely. You know, there's something about it, and it is strange, but you know, to get back to what we were talking about with the Beetle, that convertible was from Canada. So it was from Canada. It was from a French area of Canada, because it was all of the stuff in there was French. Okay. But it was from Canada. We were doing a pre-purchase inspection on it. There was an Irish lady looking to buy it. It had an accident that was not repaired very well. So that's not the end of the world. Obviously, we explained it to the prospective buyer, and the seller was there, of course. And I told him at the same time. The issue we had was that he tried to cover up on that and say, I didn't know about it. And,
sure.
But he'd also said he'd owned it for 3 years. It definitely wasn't 3 years old. So for me, that's a red flag anyway. And unfortunately, I don't think it was bought. But right in the middle of the thing and the Beetle was the EOS.
Yes.
I like the EOS.
Which they don't make those anymore either.
No, there's a reason for that.
Yeah. Okay. What's the reason?
They were just too much to make. They were just too complicated. Okay. So the roofs were built in Portugal.
Right.
By a special company that were contracted by VW, design and make the roof, and then they were taken on a jig. And we had one. I had the jig, and what a complicated bit of equipment that is.
Well, that's a death sentence right there. If there's a single part, a convertible, that roof's going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down.
An amazing roof. The technology, the way it worked, it was.
But if it's
brilliant.
If it's complicated, that's a death nail.
VW in 2003-4 saw an opportunity, because a lot of Mercedes were having build quality problems. A lot of them were having build quality. Now, Volkswagen and Mercedes have always been, like all the German manufacturers, have always been quite close and collaborated. So you've got the Sprinter van,
right,
which is a VW and Mercedes kind of joint effort, and then the Viano as well. There's always been a lot of that sort of stuff. You know, you've got Porsche building Mercedes E-classes back in the E500s and stuff like that, and there's always been a bit of collaboration, and they know what's going on with each other.
Right.
Mercedes were building a lot of cars in America, and build quality issues were there, and VW saw an opportunity, and this is my opinion, but the dates line up. They thought, well, we can do it better than Mercedes. But obviously, from the from the time of the conception of that idea to production, Mercedes has started to turn it around.
Yeah.
So then you see cars like the Passat CC. So the Passat CC was a beautiful car, 2007, 2008.
They don't make those anymore either.
No. So when we first got the car in, our Master Tech, he had an SLK. That was one of the first cars with a fully automatic roof, which would let you operate it while you were driving below a certain speed. Well, I remember the Passat CC, and I remember him saying to me, "Look, that's our effort there at showing we can make a Mercedes." And I was like, "What? Why would we want to make a Mercedes? We're Volkswagen. Who cares? We've got Audi for that." And he was like, "No, this is what we can do, and this is, and what a car!
Yeah.
Great car, really nice to look at. Probably not, to be fair, the original one hasn't aged that well. Like most of the mid-2000s cars, they haven't really.
Yeah, I don't know what happened in mid-2000s.
No,
I agree with you.
But it is what it is, and it was a great car, fantastic. It had got rid of all the problems that the Passat that it was kind of based on had from launch in 2005, and everything was good. But then the EOS was the same. It was like the answer to the automatic roof on the SLK. Amazing, worked better than the SLK. Everything was great. Now in the UK, in a wet and cold climate, all me and the Master Tech, because he was I couldn't do it to start with until I'd done the training, but the Master Tech was the one that had to do it at the time. All we did on them was leaks.
Yeah.
Water leaks. Now that was easily fixed. Easily prevented. Not easily fixed, but easily prevented. So the prevention was to keep the seals clean.
Right.
And then we had a liquid, like it looked like baby oil. It was in a bottle that big. There was no more than 50 mils in it, and it was about £70. But it'd last forever.
Okay. So you just keep the
Clean your
seals lubricated
and lubricate the seals every time you wash the car.
All right.
And it would stop 99% of leaks.
That's pretty good.
Now we had one that had to go back, was bought back by the manufacturer. Volkswagen bought it back and gave the customer a brand new car because the roof would not stop creaking.
Oh.
Yeah.
But a brand new car because of the roof.
Yeah, it wouldn't stop creaking.
That's insane.
So Volkswagen bought it back. We looked at it. It went to Milton Keynes, and then we had the factory in our garage looking at it, and
they couldn't figure it
went
out.
back to the factory.
Okay, just a bad roof.
And it went. Now, the roof was amazing. As a technical exercise, absolutely amazing. But when you have a customer that's buying the car because of how it looks, they do not care if the roof opens and closes better than an SLK. And they don't care if it's 3 seconds quicker on operation than an SLK. And they're not interested, partly because the SLK was another 15K to buy.
Yeah.
So they weren't in that price bracket. So they're not interested. They want the VW. And the problem is, if they've ever had a convertible VW, they've had the Golf, they've had the Beetle, they didn't have automatic roofs on.
Right.
This was a completely, this was a completely new thing. And it was a shame. And I would, the reason that they're not made anymore is because they were unnecessarily good, over-engineered, which made them very complicated, and also put too much responsibility on the owner. From an engineer's point of view, what are you talking about? We're only asking them to clean the seals. We're only asking them to lubricate. Why wouldn't you do that? You're spending 40,000 euros on it. Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
But as a customer, we used to put the service packs together on a PDI, so on a pre-delivery inspection. Car comes off the boat. On the car transporter, we inspect it. We check all the wheel bolts are tight. We set the radio channels. We set the radio code. We make sure the keys are working. We road test the car, we check the AC. We do a full, it's probably the most comprehensive check any car ever gets is before it goes to the customer. Now this has already been done in the factory pretty much, but we're redoing it because it's going out with our name on it. And we have to do that, and it's the right thing to do. But we would do a pre-delivery inspection on, let's say, 50 cars. Most months, maybe more, in March and September when we have the new registrations in the UK, Not many of them were EOSs. Not many, a small percentage of them. But you have to remember that they are going to a type of customer that when we put the service packs together in that PDI sheet, it was probably that thick. You're talking 4 or 5 manuals, sometimes with supplements,
Right.
for general maintenance, control for the radio, all of this stuff. And they came number order. Radio was section 3.4 always, which is the last section. The only thing after that was supplements. So if there was a sat-nav upgrade or anything like that, it was at the back. The last one you should get to, and as an engineer, specifically as a German engineer, you would say, well, you're never going to read that. You'll read how to check fuses and lights first in the main thick book. Nobody reads it. How does my radio work? How do I pair my phone? They do not care, and understandably so.
Yeah.
They don't care. They're not interested. Right? And if you try and explain to a customer who's just taken the ribbon off their car in the showroom, right, every time you clean this roof, just clean the seals with a lint-free cloth, and put some of this oil on it. You know, we used to put the oil in the glove box, £70 that was. We used to put it in the glove box for them, and every time the car came back for a service, you can guarantee it was in there and it wasn't open.
Yeah.
And what do you do?
Yeah, there you go. So the seal, once the seals get dried out, there's no saving.
No, and then all we were doing was changing seals left, right, and centre.
And that's not cheap.
No, and it's a job that, because when one would go on the right-hand side, you'd have to change both, and then the seals often got modified. So there was a process from the factory. Oh crap, we're getting too many failures there. Let's change that. So then you put the new seal on the right. Yeah. But it wouldn't fit,
right?
Because you've not got the modified one on the front.
Yeah.
So then,
so you need to replace the whole seal kit.
I've spent, I mean, the Mastertech, like I say, Tim, he was on them before I was, when they first came out in 2006. But by 2007-8, when I was working on them, I've spent over 30 hours on one car. 30 hours.
That's crazy.
You know, and our warranty rate was 50% at that time from the factory. May have gone up, may have gone down now. So we were getting about £60 an hour for that. And I've spent 30 on one car.
Yeah. No.
And we've been paid on it. Because everything's logged, and I've gone through a process. And unreal. And the training course was a full week, 5 full 8-hour days just for that. And then I'd have to go back, and then there'd be some kind of responsibility for me to cascade that information on. But I know, because I was told, well, I'm not listening to that, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to be involved in that, because all you get is stressed all day, every day. And it was a stressful thing. Like, you'd do this, and you'd spend 4 or 5 hours, you'd fix it, you'd check it with the watering can, make sure, and then we had to have a 30 centimetre gap at 1 bar of pressure on water on a fine spray. And when we'd take it into the wash bay, we had it set up on the rig, spray it in, and you'd be sat in the car, and you'd be like, yes. No leak, and then you'd hear this drip.
Oh.
And you'd look, and somewhere else would be leaking, or the place that you thought you'd fixed would be leaking, and it's like, next. Yeah. It's soul destroying.
Yeah, and hence the car is not sold anymore.
That's why they don't. I can't see any other reason for it, because it, again, very, very good car, handled really well. The
quirky look. I always found that the outside had a quirky look.
Yeah, the last one that had been facelifted a couple of times looked really cool. It had the nice lights, and it got rid of them stupid LED things. And it looked.
They were small yet fairly spacious inside, but they look kind of small on the outside.
Yeah, you could get, even with the roof down, you could still get plenty of luggage in the back. You still get a full suitcase in there. Yeah. And I couldn't sit in the back with anyone in the front that had legs, but people could get in behind me if I was in the front, and you know, there was plenty of space, and it wasn't too cramped even with the roof up. Yeah. So yeah, it's a shame. It was a nice car, but it wouldn't really have worked with a right top. But then saying that, the A4, so the Audi has always been a manual convertible. Yeah. So
that's true. That's true.
You know, maybe they thought, well, we need to separate. I think it was an attempt at going after the Mercedes.
Maybe they tried, didn't work, and it's gone. CC gone. Yeah. You know, it's unfortunate. Two nice vehicles. But.
Yeah. Touareg's here to stay though. Which
it's gone through some nice change. The Touareg.
The new one.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I think they've got into the stride. It's taken a little while.
Yeah, obviously it's always been the Cayenne and Touareg has been the same car. Obviously share a lot with the Q7. That's 7-seater, so it's a bit bigger. So no, you've got the Q7 and the Bentayga Bentley. They're sort of more alike, but they're all on the same platform really. But when the Cayenne came out in 2002, they did the Mental Turbo in 2003, and then VW Touareg came out with the V10 TDI, which was unreal, like crazy, affecting tide of the sea when you put your foot down in it. Ridiculous amount of torque and unreal power. Yeah. And a great car, and a really, really nice car, and everything inside was big. And it made it feel, you could see a farmer having this. Yeah. Which from the part of the country we lived in was what you assumed a 4x4 to me was.
It's a farm vehicle?
Yeah. Okay. It was, because that's just where we lived, and you never took your kids to school in a car. They walked or got the bus. Yeah. Or your dad dropped you off in his Sierra or his Austin Montego or whatever it was, and that was how it was. But then the 2010, 11, they revamped it, redid it, a couple of new engine choices and new look, better inside, better interior, and it all of a sudden became more of a SUV rather than a dedicated 4x4. Yeah. But the new one, I think personally, is the first time the Touareg has looked better than the Cayenne.
Ooh, those are fighting words.
I do like the Cayenne, but I think the new Touareg looks better than the Cayenne.
Wow.
Yeah, I do like it. It's obviously a personal taste, but
and fairly affordable, even top end. Like it's.
Yeah.
I mean, you can afford to own one.
I was talking to Andrew Thomas about the Terramont.
Yeah.
So I dropped his Tahoe off.
You trying to sell him a Terramont?
Well, no, I told him to lease one.
Yeah.
Because he likes his American stuff.
Yeah, he does.
So he's never going to buy one.
He might not lease one either.
His only comment on the car when he was looking at it was like, mate, it's a 2-litre engine. I was like, yeah. Still probably got as much power as the 6.2 in the Tahoe, to be fair. But that is.
Well, it's a 2-litre turbo. It's not just a little 2-litre.
They do a 3.6 as well, and I told him to go for the 2-litre turbo because the turbo makes it and helps it feel better.
Yeah.
But the new Touareg is. The first time I saw one, I thought it was a Cayenne.
I agree with you. The profile, everything about it. It's kind of like you take a second look. It's like, what's going on there?
But VW have really smartened everything up now. They've gone. It's the Porsche way of the model name in the centre on the back, above the plate, and it's working on every single car. The GTI, the new GTI is the same, just a GTI on the back.
See, that's all you need.
Yeah,
because that's all you care about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Passat, everything's the same now in the centre on the back, above the number plate, and it just smartens everything up, and it really, really is a nice car. And they've started to make nice alloy wheels again. The Touareg is the first car they've done for years that's got nice wheels on it. The GTIs have been shocking. Everything's
they lost their way there. I don't know what was going on there. It was weird.
Yeah,
it was really weird.
Very, very strange. Yeah. I know a guy that sells and manufactures wheels. So, some of the old retro wheels that you used to get on the Golfs and the Beetles and stuff. The amount of orders he gets for reproductions of those to put on modern cars has gone way high.
That's good.
Like the Mark 6 and Mark 7 Golfs have just taken off because the wheels were crap. It's rubbish.
And it's so important, what they look like when it's moving, but when it's stopped, that's what people see. I mean, that's the big advertisement. You got 4 of them sitting at you.
Yeah, they've obviously, the main concern is weight and aerodynamic profile. That's the problem. But still,
come on, exactly.
Give me a break. I'd rather have a bit less grip and some eco low rolling resistance tyres than on some decent wheels than rubbish wheels with good tyres.
Less grip. You'd go for less grip.
Well, they're not talking like zero, are you? But eco tyres with better looking wheels. I mean, what are you doing? I mean, nobody's running around a racetrack.
True.
You're not driving around a racetrack, are you? And if you were driving around a racetrack, you'd have a set of wheels for that.
Yeah. So what's Thomas going to do? Is he gonna release one? Is he gonna go for the VW, or is he gonna stick with his big bad bold Tahoes?
Tune in next week to find out. Got him hooked there, haven't we? I don't know. If I was him and I told him, I would definitely lease one. Great deal.
Well, there's big sales on right now too.
Yeah, but you do a 24-month lease for 2,000 plus, just 2-3 a month or something.
Yeah. It's some ridiculous number. Yeah. 12-month is only 100 dirhams more, I think.
The GTI, you can get the new GTI in a 12-month for 3,000.
I know. It's great.
You've got to pay. I think you have to pay the three of the 4 up front.
Yeah.
So the first payment's a stinger, but then the last 3 you don't pay.
Yeah.
But if it was me, I would certainly go for it. He's having too much fun, you see, modifying the Tahoe. Just put a dashboard cover in it.
Yeah.
And
he's going down that route.
He's been spray painting his wheels and his badges.
Yeah.
Tinted his windows to 4 million %.
I saw, this is another great area that we don't talk enough about, and it's modifications to vehicles, and it's an addictive thing. Once you start doing mods, you can't stop. You just start looking at everything, and there's aesthetic modifications, and that gets out of control. And then once you get past a certain degree threshold in the aesthetic modifications, then it's like, okay, I'm going to lift it just a little bit. Oh, I'm going to do, I'm going to add. Next thing you know, you're in for mortgaging your house.
Well, the problem is, once you get to the point of putting blue or red lights in your footwell,
that's it. There you go.
Too far, and there's no going back.
I saw a guy the other day talking just window tinting. It was getting dark. This guy drives by me, and I could see through the front window because he hadn't tinted it. Some people do that too, and I don't understand what's going on. But he had the dome light on in his vehicle. I'm thinking, okay, that's cool. But as it went by me, I couldn't see the dome light anymore. And then from the back, it was gone. I'm looking and I'm going, it is so dark.
Yeah.
There is zero light coming out of the vehicle, which means there's zero light going into the vehicle.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We
can't see when he's driving.
I obviously, I drop a lot of cars off on my way home if they're in the same neighbourhood, and the amount of cars that have got anything over 50%, even 50%, whilst it is allowed legally. When you're changing lanes, and every road here is 3 lanes, right? Yeah. When you're changing lanes or you're coming off of a roundabout and you look to the mirror and all you can see is the reflection of your dashboard.
You're done for. Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
You can't, until you've understood and until you've driven a car with really dark windows, it's hard to understand how disconcerting it is when you can't see your mirror.
Well, I always find it interesting because you'll see these vehicles that have 70% blackout, and yeah, great, it's wonderful when it's hot out and it keeps the sun out and you're a little cooler. It gets dark, you got a problem. But then when you see the same vehicle, and I'm thinking maybe a Land Rover or something, and you see the same vehicle, zero tint, you kind of look at the vehicle takes on a whole different perspective.
Yeah, tint does have there is an aesthetic value to it.
Yeah.
There is, and most cars, in my opinion, look better tinted, but you have to remember that you've got to be able to see out in the evening.
I think people forget that. It just becomes aesthetics.
The ones that are noticeable are the Teslas, because there's a lot of glass on the Teslas, especially the roof, and and they've got such bright white seats invariably that you notice them when the windows aren't tinted.
I don't think I've ever. I'm trying to think of a Tesla that I've seen that hasn't been tinted. There's not too many. Yeah,
a lot of cars here, especially when you buy them new, most agencies here retailers will tint them for you before they deliver it to you. They'll charge you 10 times the market rate to do it, but most people just say whatever.
Yeah, I'll throw it on.
Put it on the EMI and I'll just pay it. And it makes sense. You get the car ready and you can use it and never see anyone again for another year. But so most cars do get tinted because they tell you that it rejects 90% of the heat. And
yeah, sure. You know what? I think it's funny because I drive around in a soft top and I've got a hard top vehicle. My soft top in blazing sunlight is cooler than my hardtop. I mean, the hardtop is just
The hard top just absorbs and holds onto the heat.
and it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so, tinted the windows is really going to make a big difference. Okay, it does make some, but really, in the larger scheme of things, when you take into account the fact you can't see,
Yeah.
there you go. Hey, I want to jump back for a second to Volkswagen, because I saw this concept car that they've got, the ID Life concept car, which is an EV. And when I first looked at it, I mean, it's kind of cool looking. It's interesting. But when I first looked at it, the very, just my eye hit it and then I turned away. I thought I was looking at a Ford Flex modern version.
Disgusting thing to say.
No, it really, and I'm looking at this thing and I'm going, then they start describing it and what they're going to do with the inside. And they're saying, is it a car? Is it a movie theater? Is it a camper? Because of the way everything can be, you got the big screens that are going to be in it. You got seats, and I'm going, Ford stopped making the Flex, and Volkswagen stepping in to offer the Flex vehicle. You might as well just call it the.
To be fair, James, you'd probably fit this thing in the back of a Flex.
Well, it is tiny. That's the other thing.
I like it. It's like that. It does look a little bit like that. From the side, it looks a little bit like the Evoque, the Discovery Sport.
It does.
I think that's the two-tone roof and body. But
Yeah. Well, and in the Kia has one also that they do the same thing, right? That has that two-tone.
Yeah. I mean, I do like the look of that, but
it's got that giant front end. The height of the you can easily see where they've looked at cars around there and they've said, like I said, that Evoque, it's got an Evoque look to it with the tires.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of square.
Kind of full fat Range Rover even.
Yeah. And then you've got this really in-your-face front end that just seems a little bit higher. And you know what? The thing that caught my attention was, from the aerodynamic perspective, it's flat.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that's what's saying Flex to me, is that front end where it's just flat.
It is strange, the whole aerodynamics thing.
Yeah.
Cars used to be made to look cool.
Yeah.
You think about the rally cars from the 80s.
Oh man,
the
beautiful.
Lanciers, the Audis.
Yeah.
All these cars that they had in the 80s, that they were just square because they're big and muscular, and they needed to be just functional.
How much are you going to really save anyway? How many
And I
liters
think
of
we're
petrol?
kind of, hopefully, we'll get to the point where cars can have a bit of character again, because
we're down to electricity.
they're electric anyway. Everyone's charging them every night. It's not costing the environment as much as petrol is.
Yeah.
So we haven't got to try and eke out that extra MPG or that extra kg of CO2, and we might start getting cars with a bit of character again.
I'm hoping it becomes.
Yeah, I mean, if that's all we get from it, then great.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand. There's one of these pictures on this, and
You got to check that out. You got to
the
Google it.
website.
Volkswagen ID.
Yeah.
Full stop life.
So there's 20 pictures on there.
Yeah.
And then
There's some crazy ones.
picture number, where are we now?
20. Oh, the interior looks like a fighter jet.
Picture number 20.
Okay, picture number 20.
Why have they showed it with a load of dead bugs on the front?
I don't know.
Is that just to show that it can drive?
Yes, you can go through a locust swarm.
Why is that?
I don't know. Yeah.
But no, it looks cool. I mean, the ID Buzz, the electric camper van,
Yeah.
that's been tested. That's been out in its camo gear and stuff, getting tested. Not so sure how I feel about that. It looks okay, but again, why doesn't it look more like the old camper van did?
Yeah. But I like the whole thing because of the way the dash system works, and literally the whole front windshield becomes a screen.
Yeah.
So you could be sitting in the back. You're just. I mean, I don't know who's just going to hang out in their car watching movies, but.
Maybe you get to the point where people just live in cars.
Well, I'm thinking part of it is maybe this is a harbinger to tiny homes. And so, you live in a tiny home, you've got an electric car.
Well, what if you were to, so this again goes into the fuel cell idea.
Right.
If you were to have a fuel cell vehicle, it produces water.
Yeah.
So for an individual, it probably would produce enough water
to
sustain them for a period of time. And you, in theory, therefore, could drive it into an off-grid abode.
Okay.
Say
yeah.
you've got a couple of containers and
Yeah.
you've converted them and you live off grid, you could drive your fuel cell vehicle into plug your vehicle into
All
there,
right, yeah, I get
and then
that.
run the house.
There's another scene when we're talking about that movie theater. I keep going back to this because this is something innovative that I'm sure other car companies do it. I just haven't seen it. The front seat folds forward so you can actually sit on it, and the headrests become leg rests.
Oh, nice.
And the back seat then has that cushion area on it. So now suddenly you're able to be sitting with your back against the back seat, feet right out, leg rest down, camping in it, sleeping in it, watching a big movie on your big screen. It's got interior lighting. I'm looking at this going, this is actually, you know what? This could work.
Yeah, I think I think, like we just said, I think if you've got we just saw it in the US where there were power outages and people were powering their homes from their F-150s.
Same kind of deal. You look in the back, it's got how many, it's got, under a little flap, the one that has all the bugs on it, it's which I don't get. That's where you've got all your connectors and you can plug in your house, you can plug in your thing, it's boom, you're laughing.
If you're an individual, if you are an individual without any real you go to work in your car and then you come home.
Yeah.
What do you need? So you could have a solar powered water heater.
Yep.
So you've got hot water. Your TV's in the car.
Yeah.
You could, in theory, you could sleep in the car. Not that you necessarily need to. You could still have a bed and a sofa in your house.
Yeah.
But everything could be powered from it.
Yeah. Get us out, get us away. I think it'd be kind of cool. What became interesting when I was looking at this was the next vehicle that jumped out at me, and this was interesting because I'm just kind of going through these and looking at these concept cars, and I'm thinking, okay, this is cool. One of the vehicles that I never hear about is smart cars, and I don't mean smart cars, but the brand name Smart, and it's weird because you see all these vehicles tagged Smart, and I see them all over the place. I see them here. I'm forever wondering, where do you buy one? And I never see them advertised. So it's a weird kind of thing, but apparently they're doing a whole bunch of stuff. And what caught my attention was, again, another concept, and we've got Mercedes-Benz working on the exterior stuff and the look of it. We've got Geely working on the mechanics, and they've come up with another EV concept that actually looks pretty cool.
Yeah, one of the problems with the smart car when it had its first run in the early 2000s in the UK was that because it's Mercedes-Benz, it's too expensive. Way too expensive.
Well, that's what filling that in. That's what someone said to me. I said, well, James, just go hang out at Mercedes. That's where you're going to find them.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, but they're not really pushing them.
No.
It's like, I don't know if it's just a little bit of a project on the side. Let's see how many people ask about them.
Oh, well, there is to push, really. I never liked the original ones.
They're tiny.
Yeah, they just had the two seats with nothing behind them, and then they did the they called it the Smart 4.4, which had 4 seats.
And that's what I'm looking at is this concept of, I guess it's a Smart 4.4-ish kind of thing.
Yeah, 4 full-size seats.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very Mercedes inside.
Absolutely, and again,
like
it looks like the concept, the size again goes back to the concept that we were just talking about at VW.
Yeah,
it's like the same vehicle.
It's the strange thing about concept cars is some of them go into production really quick and exactly true to the original. I mean, this one isn't going to.
No.
And the reason it isn't going to is because who's going to pay the money for it?
Yeah.
Just looks too expensive. Those back doors are never going to open suicide at 90 degrees to the car either.
Well, that was the kind of the funky thing when you kind of looked at it. So when you look at this car, it's showing a nice sky view of it, and the entire roof, which is happening in many vehicles now, is a skylight. It's clear. But it literally, great for getting stuff in and getting in because it's got the front doors open, and they open really like right out to the side like wings, which is cool. But the same thing happens with the back doors, except they're suicide doors. So suddenly you've opened this thing up, and I'm kind of going, I love the idea, but it ain't gonna happen.
That's a nightmare on a windy day.
Yeah.
And also on a sunny day with the roof like that.
Yeah.
So, But yeah, one of the things Smart had was the Mercedes price tag.
Yeah.
For what you were getting, it didn't make much sense. They were a little bit like, they had a niche following, and they were quite, like you say, quirky, and it was kind of like, you know, the cool car to have at the time, but there were much better choices.
Do you think the Geely tie-up is hoping that we can make it more
Budget,
cost-effective?
yeah.
And
yeah, maybe the production. I would think that there's, again, like VW have had to do.
Yeah.
There'll be some kind of deal with the Chinese manufacturer to reduce the cost of selling their vehicles in China, because it's a huge market.
Yeah.
So they tie up with Geely, get some production going, and then whether or not this is even something they actually want to sell en masse doesn't matter, because then the import and sale of vehicles from Mercedes in China will be drastically cheaper because of it.
Before we end this podcast, let's jump really quickly to the shop and lessons from the shop this week. What's come in that has made you scratch your head, or say the very common refrain that you and DJ have every now and then? What were you thinking when the owner explains what's happened? What got anything?
We had a strange car. Well, it wasn't a strange car.
Strange owner?
A strange issue with a car that was all of a sudden, it's backfiring, misfiring.
Fuel injected?
Got no idea why.
Okay.
Have you had anything done on the car? Have you done this? No. Okay. And we'd never seen the car before. We had no history of it. And the customers referred to us having had trouble, I assume, at a previous place. But it was a distributor engine, and cylinder number 1 and cylinder number 8 were the wrong way around with the HT leads, which I've got no idea how you would do that. But checking the timing, we figured that out, because we go around cylinder number 1 with the timing light for the pulse, and we couldn't get it anywhere near. So we traced all the leads and checked it, and 1 and 8 were the wrong way around. We literally swapped them around, cleaned the spark plugs that were fouled. It started up and ran perfectly, and that was it. But I don't know how we got to there.
So do you think when someone was changing the wires, they just made a mistake?
Yeah, but they must have made it worse. This is the thing, right? So it must have been made worse, because, well, it was missing.
Yeah.
And it was backfiring, because there was unburnt fuel going into the exhaust. I mean, it made zero. There was no way in my mind to logically go backwards in steps to say how we'd come to this point.
Yeah. Did you ever find out who the service?
No, we didn't ask. Look, I didn't even say to the customer this. I just said, look,
but you're curious, though.
Yeah.
It's like you're looking through let me look through the record book. Who'd they go to last?
Yeah, I fixed the timing, and we sorted it, and it was good to go. So that was a weird one. A couple of issues with starter motors. That's been. We've had a good run of starter motors, actually. It's been.
Now I get a quick question. When I was back home, I heard you had those cars that at the lights stop and then they restart. And obviously that's using more of your starter motor. So my mind would say you're just using something more. It's obviously going to have more of an effect on it. I'm not hearing as much of that in this part of the world as we did, but then maybe it's just because it's warmer, so the cars are staying running. I don't know, but I'm wondering if that fad kind of turned off and people just kind of went, I'm just going to keep my car going.
Even the RS and S Audis have it on.
Really?
Performance cars have it now. It's the only way for them to get the kilograms of CO2 down.
So that it turns off.
Yeah. Some of the technology that Peugeot originally did was to use the alternator rather than the starter motor to fire the engine back up using the drive belt from the alternator. I think Audi also went that way now.
So it's not going away.
Stuff. But no, it's
not a gimmick.
You're right with, there's certain criteria that have to be met. The driver has to have his seatbelt. The driver has to have the seatbelt on, the door closed.
Yeah.
The cabin temperature has to be able to be maintained at what the driver's selected. So if you've got your AC set to maximum on low,
it's never going
until the winter, it's very unlikely here that it's going to go off at least every time you stop. Yeah. But if you have it set to 21.5, 22, which is what you should have it at, then it will do. What they've done on the more modern stuff is to stop people thinking that their engine's just cutting out. They've got markers now on the rev gauge, so it doesn't go down to 0. It goes to like on the Audis, it says ready, I think it says.
Right. Okay.
So that it doesn't go down to 0, so you know that that's what it's doing. Some cars will come up on the dashboard and say stop start active.
Yeah.
But it's there, and like I say, even the RS Audis and the S Audis, they have it.
Okay.
And it's not going away on internal combustion for a while. And you know, if they sell more starter motors, they're happy with it.
Okay, easy. Because I drive older vehicles, I'm always worried, man, my car starts stopping at the lights. What if it doesn't start?
Yeah.
Because then you get some people who just manually do it. I've been sitting at lights where someone's just turned it off themselves.
Again, the battery is also, all these vehicles have intelligent battery systems,
Right.
so the batteries are monitored. So if the voltage isn't sufficient to then start the car, it will also not allow it to turn off. But yeah, they are quite smart. You shouldn't ever get into that position.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, Glenn, you know what? I'm looking forward to doing this all again. Fun as always. Great conversation. I think we did talk about Volkswagen quite a bit today. That was our plan.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we stuck to a plan, and that makes a change.
Yeah, we'll do it all again real soon. POWERWORKS Automotive is where you can find Glenn Power.